Hey guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting, coming to you today with the next session in the Alpha Wolf Personal Development and Expansion series. So, this session is all about understanding the importance of narratives. So, one second. Good. So we're looking at understanding how to condition in new narratives and a little bit about what the difference is between narratives and language patterns. So to start off with, what we want to understand is what is a language pattern and what is a narrative? So an important thing to understand about language patterns are structures of words. What is a narrative? A narrative is a structure of words. So essentially, they are similar but not identical. So the slight difference is a language pattern is a structure of words that does not have associated meaning or memory assigned to it. A narrative, on the other hand, is a pre-constructed language pattern that has already not narratives, but associated meaning and memory assigned to it. So we understand, well, what is associated meaning and memory? And that is through past experience, but essentially that is personal connection to the language pattern. So, what we want to understand and what we need to understand is that the difference between a language pattern and a narrative is something that I believe to the core of myself is connected to me. So, it's a structure or a story that has personal relevance to me through associated meaning of things that I identify as mean something to me and associated memory of past experiences. For example, a narrative might be, when like I don't touch the hot plate on the stove when it's turned on because it hurts. And the reason for that is if I just say that and I've never experienced touching a hot plate on the stove, it sort of holds no true meaning to me because I don't fully understand or comprehend it. So we understand language patterns don't hold meaning to us. They are just structures of language pattern. It may sound logically sound, but unless I've got past experience to fall back on, it doesn't have any personal connection to me. I can logically know that if I touch a hot plate that's turned on, it's going to hurt. But if I don't have past experience of touching it, I don't have the physical memory, the physical sensation. So that's the important difference between narratives and language patterns is narratives, we have that past experience to fall back on. So we understand that our narratives are more powerful than just saying language patterns. So, like, this is the important difference that we want to understand when we're trying to condition in new narratives is we're not just conditioning in language patterns. We can condition in language patterns, but language patterns hold no value until we've associated meaning and memory to them. So they're just words. So this is what gives words power. What gives words power is the associated meaning and memory that we have from past experience. So there's two types of knowledge that we understand. There's theoretical knowledge, okay, and there's experiential knowledge. A language pattern is theoretical. It's a structuring of words. A narrative is experiential knowledge. It's past experiences. So we understand narratives hold deeper, not so much meaning, but they hold deeper power within us to create and alter our emotional states of being and our like emotional responses or biochemical responses. So we understand that if I have narratives based in fear, these are based in past experiences. So every time that narrative runs, I relive that past experience. I create the sensation of fear. Okay. If I have a language pattern, like for example, people say, look both ways before you cross the street. Well, if I have never had a near miss with a car or a bus or something like that, like it sounds good, but it doesn't instill, a sense of fear. If I've had near misses with cars and buses, like every time I say to myself, look both ways before you cross the street, the past experience of almost being hit is the associated memory and meaning to it. So we understand we can create associated memory and meaning and assign it to language patterns. But when we're talking about narratives, our narratives are already preconditioned within us subconsciously through past experiences. So when we're trying to condition in new narratives, they start as a language pattern until we've assigned the meaning of why. So, for example, if we take that same example of look both ways before you cross the street, okay, like why do we look both ways? Because we could be hit by a car, a bus, a truck, whatever you want it to be. So, like, that's the meaning we're assigning to it. And then we have to associate memory. So, past memories. So, memory is one of those things where we can, because it's experiential data, so we can use our own past memory or we can use others' past memory. If we see someone almost get hit by a bus, not looking before they cross the street, that can be a strong enough representation of experience for it to be as if we experienced it. So we understand this, that we learn through experiential knowledge of our own and others. Theoretical knowledge, we understand through it, but we don't learn through it. It's a very, very, like, very slight difference because we can learn through theoretical knowledge, but unless we apply theoretical knowledge, it doesn't hold the same meaning or gravity within us. And that's the important thing. So it's this important thing that, like, I can understand how to build a house, but until I've experienced building a house, it doesn't hold the same meaning, that knowledge. So, like if we think about it like this, okay, like we all learn, like for example, if we were learning sales, it makes logical sense. But in the moment, it's harder to access because it's less ingrained because we don't have past experience to fall back. When we go through, different challenges and things like that in sales, then we start to build that experiential knowledge or that past experience. And that's what comes into our mind when we're in the sales engagement of sort of experiencing, objections and how we overcame them in the past. So do you sort of see there is slight difference between it because it's about the accessibility of the information. Okay. For example, if we've never been attacked by a wild animal, when we go into the wilderness, we know there's wild animals in the wilderness, but we've never experienced an encounter with them. Until we experience an encounter with them, consciously we understand what we would do, but in the moment, that can be lost. Do you sort of get it? Because the experiential knowledge is within our subconscious, not in our conscious brain. So it's very important to understand this slight difference because it's this difference that is what makes it easier to move through things. When I have experienced something before, like it's easier for me to understand how I will behave and react in this circumstance. When I have never experienced it, it can become overwhelming in the first time that I am experiencing it. So it's important to understand the core foundation of, creating narratives is understanding self-validation, that we're validating the theoretical knowledge through our past experiences. We are validating the language patterns through our past experiences, not based on what other people say it should be and how it should be. So we understand our narratives can be created by others or they can be created by us. So narratives are the way in which news, politicians, all forms of media, movies, pretty much other people condition us to believe things that they believe. They create a narrative and then they re-ingrain that narrative. So you think about it like this, if we take, for example, media and news, like the first time they say something, it doesn't really mean something, but they say it again and again and again and again, and then they show us collating data that like aligns to what they're saying, makes it more believable, makes it easier for us to believe what they're saying as being true. So we understand an important thing, that truth does not exist outside of the individual. There is no universal truth. There is no overarching truth of life. We can say that there is overarching truth in life, but it's not true, because trees don't care about truth. Animals don't care about truth. The wind doesn't care about truth. The rain doesn't care about truth. The sun doesn't care about truth. The sun doesn't say, I only shine 12 hours a day because the sun's only up 12 hours a day. The sun shines. It doesn't really care if there's meaning, if there's truth. It just operates. So we understand that we as individuals are the ones that bring meaning and truth into life. There is none external to us. So what we have to understand is, with narratives, there will be narratives that are true to us and narratives that aren't true to us. The narratives that aren't true to us are the narratives that have been implanted by other people's belief and conditioning. So we understand when people say the same thing again and again and again and again, day in, day out, over and over, for months, for weeks, for years, for decades, it ingrains within our mind as being a truth. Because every time we hear it, it is reinforcing and building the synaptic pathway for that information or for that narrative. So we understand, either I create the narratives that run and play in my mind, or I allow others to create the narratives that run in my mind. Do you sort of get it? One of the biggest narratives is that life has meaning. Do you sort of get it? That there's overarching meaning to life, and if you're not living your life based on what society believes is meaningful, your life is meaningless. Do you sort of get it? Like, if you live your life how you find meaning and aligned with your meaning in life, your life has meaning. If you align your meaning in life to what other people say life means, your life becomes meaningless because there's no personal connection to it. So we understand the importance of personal connection, the individual connection to the narratives that are playing. It doesn't matter what other people believe as being true in life. You get to determine what is true to you. Do you sort of get it? If you want other people to agree with you, you have to believe what they believe. Do you sort of get it? There's no difference. Should I believe in an overarching rule of, there is goodness in life? And then I believe that, my values of good are so sort of lowered or substandard to what society believes is good. Do you sort of get it? Like, all we have to do is look at society to understand this, with this whole thing about, take for example, transgender and men that transfer or transition into being so-called women have the right to play in women's sports. Everyone tried to say that was real and that was true and that should be allowed. Do you sort of get it? If you're a woman that, is a professional athlete and has trained their whole life in a certain field, like maybe you don't believe that that's true, that a man can play in women's sports if they've so-called transitioned. Do you sort of get it? Like, it's a funny thing because if I wanted to identify as a woman, I'm allowed to within myself. If I want to say that you have to see me as a woman, that is not acceptable. Do you sort of get it? Because now I'm saying that my belief overrides and trumps your belief. That you must believe what I believe as being true, otherwise, you are wrong. You are a bad person. So we understand these narratives that are created within society don't hold any additional meaning than the narratives that we create within our own life. Do you sort of get it? So we can live our life believing what other people say is true, or we can live our life believing what I say is true. Do you sort of get it? There's no difference. If I live my life believing other people's, what everyone else says is being true is true, and what I believe is being true isn't true, like I'm only creating a hell within myself of devaluing myself, of lowering my own worth. Do you sort of get it? So this is why it's really important when we're conditioning in new narratives that we don't condition in narratives that other people tell us to be true without us first experiencing them as being true within us. Do you sort of get it? Like, for example, a lot of people in life say doing nice things for other people makes you feel good. Now, unless you've done something nice for someone else and felt good as a result of it, for you to believe that, do you know what I mean? It's inauthentic. But if you've experienced it as being true, it becomes an authentic truth to you. And this is the difference. If I don't have personal experiential knowledge on something being valuable or true to me, then what happens is it's only ever theoretical knowledge. Do you sort of get it? It doesn't hold any personal value to me. There's no personal connection to it. When I've experienced being nice to someone else and the feeling of feeling good about it, it holds personal value and personal meaning to me. And this is the important part. This is what we want to do. So we want to go out there and construct this identity of self. Because why are we conditioning in new narratives? Do you sort of get it? Like, why? Why condition in new narratives? Why not just live life with our hand over our eyes, blindly following and obeying what everyone else says to be right and true in this world? That's what religion says to do. Do you sort of get it? Like, the Bible holds so much valuable information about personal experience and about lessons in life and living a good life. But if you just blindly believe it because someone said it's true, like, do you do you sort of get it? Like, it doesn't hold any value. If you experience and live those lessons and that information within the Bible of things like, for example, do unto others as you wish them to do to you. If you go out and live that way and experience that, it holds immense value to you. If you just blindly follow that because you want to get a ticket to heaven, like you're living in an authentic life. It's false virtue. Do you sort of get it? So a lot of people believe the Bible as being gospel, yet they don't embody everything in it. Why is that? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you understand the difference? There's a difference between virtue and false virtue. False virtue is hypocritical, virtue is not. So when I say that everyone else must be nice to me because I'm being nice to them, that's hypocritical. Like, do you sort of get it? Because I'm expecting that because I act a certain way, everyone else has to act that way. I'm a tyrannical master of my environment. I dictate to others how they should be. You should do this because I say it should be done this way. So we understand that while there is value in other people's opinions, there's value in other people's experience until we practice those experiences for ourselves. It holds no value to us. And for us to say it holds value without experiencing it creates illusions. Do you know what I mean? So like everyone says that I don't cheat or steal. Yet a lot of people cheat and steal in this world. People say I have honor and loyalty, and a lot of people stab each other in the back. Like they both can't be true. I can't have honor and loyalty and then go and cheat on my partner. I can't have honor and loyalty and then go and stab someone in the back, i.e., talk behind their back, talk down about them. Do you know what I mean? Sell them out, tell others their secrets, whatever it may be. So we understand that it's important for us to construct our narrative based on who we want to be in life and based on how we want to experience life. Do you sort of get it? We're not constructing our narratives based on what others say is right in life. We're basing it on what we believe to be right in life. And this is the important aspect of it, because when I base things off what I believe to be right in life, there is conviction behind my actions. I'm living authentically within myself. I'm becoming who I want to be in life. When I live my life based on what everyone else believes to be is right, am I authentic to myself? If I agree with what everyone else says, like for example, we're not trying to break the mold and change, so to speak, societal beliefs. Like for example, I believe being a good, kind person is an enjoy like is a path to happiness because I've experienced it. Being nice to people and doing the right thing makes me feel better about who I am. Do you sort of get it? It doesn't matter about other people, but if I go around acting as if being a good person means good things will happen to me, that's fucking idiotic and stupid. Why? Because I'm not doing it because of like myself. I'm doing it for what I can get out of it. So we understand there is a difference in our narratives. Because when we do anything to do with personal development, anything to do with the conscious and the unconscious mind, it is only ever internal. It is never external. Do you sort of get it? I don't be a nice or a kind person for external benefits. I be a nice and a kind person for the internal benefits. If I'm being a nice and kind person for the external benefits, I'm a fake virtuous person. There's no conviction behind my actions. For should I be a nice person to someone and I not get kindness back, that person is a bad person. Should I be a kind person to others and then they go and they stab me in the back? Those people are evil people. Have you seen this? It's prevalent everywhere in society that we have these beliefs or these expectations that should I be a good person, good things should happen to me. The truth in life is that should I be a good person, it doesn't matter what other people do to me. Do you sort of get it? Because other people can't do anything to me. Sure, they could physically assault me, they could attack me, they could say nasty things, they could, you know, cheat and steal, they could betray me, whatever. But have they done anything to me? For they do not control the internal states within me. They do not control my perspective. So this is what we understand about narratives, is our narratives shape our perspective. Do you sort of get it? They shape our internal beliefs. They shape our internal truths. Our narratives create the emotional responses that we want in life. They create the emotional states that we want to exist in life. So, like, for example, a narrative might be that other people can't affect me. So if someone walks up to me and starts swearing at me and calling me every horrible name under the sun and talking negative to me, can they affect me? If my narrative says that no one can affect my internal state of being except me, then no one has the power or ability to alter and affect my internal states of being. So an important thing to understand is when we're conditioning these in, we know that it's within us the control to dictate what these narratives are and what they mean, not on anyone else. No one else has the ability to influence our narratives. If I blindly accept what other people say as being more valuable than what I think and feel, it is impossible for me to alter and shape the narratives that I create. For any narrative I create will always be superseded by what other people say, by the narratives other people create. And so we understand when we're conditioning in new narratives, okay, and we're trying to do this, self-validation is the foundation. Self-validation is my opinion is worth more than other people within me, not external to me, but within me. So it's not to say that my opinion trumps your opinion, but within me, within this one, my opinion trumps everyone's. I don't care if you've got a PhD, my opinion trumps everyone. Do you sort of get it? If I want to say that I can fly and jump off a 30-story building, like I'm allowed to believe that. Doesn't mean it's going to be true in the external environment, but I'm allowed to believe that. I'm allowed to say that that's true. Doesn't matter if there's physicists saying it's an impossible feat. Do you know what I mean? If I accept the consequences of my external actions, that's fine. Do you know what I mean? But if I jump off that building and then halfway down start freaking out saying, oh, I can't fly, I can't fly. Why did I do this? Why did I do this? Like I'm, you know, like I'm an idiot regardless because I thought I could influence the external environment. So we accept. We do not have power over the external environment to dictate how things should be, but I have power over my internal environment. So my conscious mind, my unconscious mind, my biochemical responses, I control these, no one else does. Do you sort of get it? The external environment, no one controls. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean? I can act as if I can, you know, talk to a tiger and tell a tiger not to attack me. And then I go out into the jungles in Asia and I come face to face with a tiger. I can act like I can control that tiger, but I don't control anything in the external environment, but I control me in the external environment. Do you know what I mean? So that's an important thing because there has been many people throughout history, throughout life, that have tried to dictate the external environment and it's gone bad for them. There was people who wanted to live in grizzly bear territory and, you know, act as if they were a part of the grizzly bears pack and all of that. And they were allowed to be in the territory and this and that. And they had a right to live with them. And the funny thing is, this works sometimes. So sometimes it allows, like you're able to exist or coexist with them. But at a certain point in time, you don't dictate what that grizzly bear does. So an important lesson to learn from their experience is that should I act like that, what will happen is what happened to them. One night, the grizzly bear decided it wanted to come into their tent and attack them and ate them and killed them. Do you sort of get it? Like, we don't control them. We can act like we control them. We can act like this and that, but we don't actually control anything to do with the external environment. We only ever control what we do within our internal environment and how we interact with the external environment. So that's a very important thing. So now we've understood the difference between a language pattern and a narrative. We've understood the difference between theoretical and experiential knowledge. Okay. We understand we dictate and control our internal environment, not our external environment. The only factor I control in the external environment is me, nothing else. All right. So we understand all these aspects. Now we can get into creating these narratives. So what we want to know is, what emotions do I want to feel? Do I want to feel empowerment or do I want to feel disempowerment in my emotional state? So do I want to feel in control of the situation or do I want to feel outside of control? I.e., should I give into anger when I feel angry? I lose control. Do you know what I mean? If I'm reacting to something in my external environment and not proactively deciding how I want to act or enact within that environment, like I am reactive, not proactive. So we understand we're creating narratives proactively, not reactively. I'm not creating narratives and conditioning in new narratives to react to things that are happening within my life. Like, reactive is outside of our control. Proactive is when we take control. It's inside of our control. So I see a situation up ahead and I determine how I'm going to enter that situation and move through it. I don't see a situation up ahead and then move through it and then get into the middle of it and go, oh shit, this is not what I wanted. Do you sort of get it? So we're structuring and conditioning in new narratives prior to the experience or the situation. So should I want to be happy every day? I'm not waiting until I'm happy and then go, oh, I'm happy today. I'm going to be happy today. Do you know what I mean? I'm not waiting to wake up to determine if I'm going to be happy today or if I'm going to be sad today. Do you sort of get it? Like, I'm not waiting for the external environment to validate how I should be. I'm validating how I want to be, and then I am dictating it within myself. So should I decide I want to be happy today and I walk outside and it starts raining, am I now going to be, you know, not happy today because it's rained? No, I've already made the decision I'm going to be happy. So, regardless of the external environment, I have the power to remain happy. I also have the power to give in and become sour because it's raining now. Oh, I wanted it to be sunny. Do you sort of see? So we understand that, like, we are proactively creating or constructing the stories and the narratives, or the narratives or the stories, okay, that we want to run in our life, in our day-to-day life, in our week-to-week life, in our month-to-month life, in our year-to-year life. We are not just reacting from situation to situation. Do you sort of get it? So we are structuring and creating the narratives that we want. And at any point in time, we can change these narratives. Do you sort of get it? Like, they're not set in stone that I've said I can only ever be happy. And should my best friend die today, that I'm not allowed to be sad because I've said I can only be happy. So I have to be joyous hearing the news. Do you sort of get it? Like, we're able to change it, but we're not reacting to it and saying that I'm not allowed to be happy because this has happened. Do you know what I mean? We're saying that I'm allowed to feel other sensations or other emotions if I choose to, not because of. Do you sort of get the change in the language? Because this happened, now I feel this way. Like, I choose to feel this way. So if I want to feel sad and melancholy and, the feeling of loss, I'm allowed to feel that. There are no positive and there are no negative emotions. There's only positive and negative meaning that we associate to those emotions. So a lot of people associate loss or sadness or grief as being a negative emotion, but it can be a positive emotion. It's altering and shifting the perspective. Do you sort of get it? And we alter and shift the perspective through the narrative and the stories that we tell. So we're creating new narratives, i.e., for me, in loss and grief, my narrative is realizing how much that person meant to me and how much I cared, not what I've lost. Do you sort of get it? So, should I lose someone in life, I celebrate it because it's a measure of how much I cared for them, how much loss I feel in the absence of having them. Do you get it? So that's the narrative that I've changed. Rather than reacting to it and saying, I've lost this person and now I have to feel sad. I cannot feel grateful for that person. I cannot feel joy. I cannot remember all the good times. I just have to focus in on the negativity of the loss, the feeling of loss. I'll never get to speak to that person again. Do you sort of get it? So we're altering and shifting these narratives prior to. So we're constructing them. And at any point in time, I can change that. If I get into a situation where I lose my best friend and then, you know, I want to have a pity party and I want to focus in on I'm allowed to. Do you know what I mean? Does it mean I'm going to feel empowered by it? Does it mean I'm going to feel joy or happiness? Or does it mean that I'm going to feel depressed and sad and lonely now? Like, do I want to feel depressed and sad and lonely? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But I'm not allowing the environment to dictate that that's how I have to be. I'm not allowing other people to dictate that's how I have to be. That should I lose my best friend, that it's grief that I have to feel, that I have to go into a stage of mourning. Like, do you sort of get it? Like, we're not saying that things have to be a certain way. We're dictating how I want it to be, irrespective of other people, irrespective of what other people choose to believe as being true. Majority of people in life see pain as being a negative thing that they try and move away from. I see pain as being a positive thing. So I move towards what I find to be painful. Does it mean that I always live in pain? No. It just means when I have pain, I celebrate that pain. Like, do you sort of get it? Like, that's the thing. These are the narratives. These are the things. Like, I associate the meaning of pain with growth, with exertion, and with enduring. So, not endurance, but enduring. The more pain I can go through, the more pain I can experience, the more satisfaction I feel at how composed I am experiencing the pain. Do you sort of get it? These are the meanings. Like, do you see? Like, the meaning for me is when I'm in pain, if I can handle that pain and still stay composed and positive and joyous, like it's a challenge to me, like going for a run. Do you sort of get it? Does that mean I sit there and stab my hand with a knife and go, I'm in pain, I'm having a good time? No. But should pain come up, I accept it. Should I need to do something that I know is going to be painful, I accept it, I do it. Do you sort of get it? So we understand the meaning is, why is this happening? Why is this either positive or why is this negative? Why is this empowering or why is this disempowering? Do you know what I mean? Should I be walking 1,000 kilometers and I break my leg? Like, do you know what I mean? Is it a positive time or a negative time? Do I want to feel positive about it or negative about it? Do I want to feel empowered by it or do I want to feel disempowered by it? It doesn't really matter, like, which way you go. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're determining what positive means and what negative means. You're determining what empowered means and what disempowered means. So should I allow the external environment to dictate to me what disempowered means? Then I have to be disempowered based on what they think. So majority of people, if they break their leg walking, they aren't able to continue walking. Their leg is broken. They have to sit down. They cannot go any further. That's the meaning that they've assigned to it. That's what it means. That's the actions that have to happen. So do you want to be stranded in the middle of nowhere with a broken leg just sitting there waiting for life to get better? Or do you want to create a new narrative of what that means with new meaning? Do you want to be a slave to the environmental changes, or do you want to dictate what those environmental changes mean? I.e., should I break my leg? I see it as a challenge. Does it mean that it's going to be fun? No. Does it mean that I'm able to walk? No. Does it mean that I'm not going to take assistance should assistance be provided? Do you know what I mean? Like, if I break my leg and I'm in the middle of nowhere and someone stops and offers me a lift, like, I'm going to accept that lift. I'm not going to say I have to walk on a broken leg because of this, because of that. Like, that's idiotic. Do you know what I mean? I can do that. Do you know what I mean? And do you know what happens? All I have to do is accept and endure through the suffering. That's it. It doesn't mean that the suffering's positive or negative. It just means that I have to accept the pain and keep moving forward. So, like, to put this in a bit of perspective, okay, so on one of the aspects or the legs of my walk, I had to, when I walked across country, okay, I was walking 40 kilometers. At 35 kilometers, I got offered a lift. I was in pain. My legs were in pain. My muscles were in pain. My calves were cramping. I had chafe, sweat rash, all of that because I'd been wet and then I'd been dry. I was soaking wet with sweat. Do you know what I mean? And just from material rubbing on my legs, they were like the skin was rashing severely. And I didn't accept the lift because I thought there's only 5 kilometers to go. That's not too much stress. And then what happened was because I wasn't feeling any of the pain, within the next 2 kilometers, the pain got to a crescendo where it got to its peak, where every step the rashes got worse and the skin got more sensitive on my thighs. Do you sort of get it? Like my muscles were cramping and in pain each step. My exhaustion level increased. And the last 5 kilometers was up a mountain. Do you know what I mean? And every step I was sitting there. Why did I not accept the lift? I didn't accept the lift. I should have. Do you know what I mean? But I chose not to. So it doesn't mean that I can be upset that I chose not to. So I chose, you know, that was a bit of a stupid choice, you know, but it's because I wasn't in pain when the lift was offered to me. So what did I do? Did I just sit there and give up and say I'm in pain and wait for someone else to come and offer me a lift? No, I just continued on and I thought to myself, maybe accepting lifts from people isn't the worst thing. But there's a very important reason why I don't accept lifts from people when I do things. And that's because I enjoy the pain. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. I thought it was enjoyable. And then when the mountain got to be like this, directly up, isn't that a fun time? Do you know what I mean? Like it's an enjoyable time to be in pain and have to exert yourself in exhaustion. Do you know what I mean? We'd been walking for, what was it, 38 kilometers. I was exhausted. And the last 2 kilometers were vertical, up a mountain. Do you know what I mean? Knowing what I know now, that lift, I would have offered. I would have accepted that offer. Do you know what I mean? But without knowing it, I didn't know there was a vertical mountain that I had to walk up. Do you know what I mean? But we're not going to be feeling sorry for ourselves, feeling angry and down with ourselves. So it's all about the narratives that we create. Do you know what I mean? My narrative was if you don't want to accept lifts, you got to accept the path you got to walk. It's not the end of the world. It took me an extra hour or two to do it, but you know what I mean? It wasn't bad. Didn't kill me. Didn't break my body. It was exhausting. It was one of the most exhausting things I've ever done. Being that exhausted and then having to exert yourself so much, like to your maximum potential, to endure and get up this mountain, you know, like 3 or 4 oh no, like 2 kilometers or 1 or 2 kilometers up. Do you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. But a lot of people, when they saw that mountain and they had experienced what I had experienced, it would have crumbled because they would have seen it as being too difficult. Why does it have to be more difficult? Do you know what I mean? That was my question. Why the fuck aren't the roads flat? Why do they always have to have mountains? Because that's life. So, like, what I realized was when life only gives you mountains, accept life's mountains. Do you sort of get it? Don't expect for flat roads when there's only mountains in front of you. Accept life is mountains and just move through. Reset your center, reset your expectations. This is what our narratives do. They reset our expectations. When my narrative is, why is it not flat? Why can't it be flat? Why does it have to be uphill? My expectation is set at, I wish it was flat. When I just accept life is mountains, my expectation is this is normal. This is just what it is. Do you sort of get it? Like we can either give in and say, why can't it be like this? We just accept this is what it is. How do I want to move through it? So, me personally, I ran up that mountain because if life's going to give me a fucking vertical climb, like in the last 2 kilometers of my walk, and I'm exhausted and I'm chafed and I'm in pain, I'm going to fucking run up that bitch. Do you know why? Because if it's going to break me, I'm going to force it to break me. And it was freaking exhausting. I would run 200 or 300 meters and then I'd spend 2 or 3 minutes catching my breath. And then I'd run 200 or 300 meters and then I'd spend 2 or 3 minutes catching my breath. And then I'd run. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm going to be challenged in life, like I'm going to set the tempo for that challenge. Do you sort of see the narratives that I create? These are all narratives. Do you get it? Because the meaning is if I'm going to be against odds or situations or circumstances that I do not like, I am going to exert maximum potential and try and break myself on them. If a mountain wants to break me, I'm going to try and help it along its way. By instead of me walking comfortably, I'm going to run. There's two reasons for that. In past experience, if you run up a mountain, it's a lot more enjoyable and it's shorter. Do you know what I mean? Why? Because as we exert ourselves in maximum exertion, we get massive dumps of endorphins to try and alter the pain. When I'm in extreme pain and I put myself into more pain, my brain releases endorphins and different adrenaline and chemicals or biochemicals to sort of appease my body and put it through it. If I try and avoid that pain and I gradually walk up there, like I make it take longer, I make it more exertion because I'm not getting those adrenaline rushes. I'm not getting the endorphin rushes. My body's not in overdrive trying to remedy the situation with biochemical responses. Do you sort of get it? Like it's very important to get when I try to avoid pain, I experience more pain. When I try to create more pain within myself as I experience pain, the pain becomes less, becomes easier to deal with. So, i.e., should I be feeling sweat rash and it's raw? I punch myself in the arm, punch myself in the chest. Why? Because my brain can't identify or can't focus on multiple different pain sources. Picks one and it chooses it. So should I take control of the pain? What happens? I dictate the pain that I feel. I'm not being dictated to the pain that I feel. Do you sort of get it? These are narratives. Does it mean that they're true or not? I've experienced that them being true. That's why it's not just a language pattern, it's a narrative. Because as I'm feeling immense pain, when I create more pain, my focus goes to that more pain. Do you sort of get it? So it's an important thing to understand that these are narratives. These are what narratives look like. Narratives have use. I have personal memory and experience that in times of extreme exhaustion, when I create pain within myself or exertion within myself, okay, my body releases adrenaline, my body releases endorphins. Do you sort of get it? I don't really care if other people think that it's true or not. I've experienced it. So this narrative holds more value to me than what some other dickhead would say about take it easy, go slow. You know what I mean? Don't push yourself too hard. Like if I get a challenge in front of me that is designed to break me, I'm going to try and break myself on that challenge because I have a narrative and a belief that in the process of me breaking myself on a challenge, okay, I create the conditions that I want. Do you know what I mean? Now let's just understand this. In that example, that 1 to 2 kilometer mountain was one of the most exhausting things I did. I was pouring sweat. I was out of breath. It hurt to breathe in because that's how exerted I was. That's how heavy I was breathing. When I got to the top, it took about an hour before my body had calmed down. For the next 2 days, I was in immense pain because my muscles were torn and had to repair themselves. Do you sort of get it? Like, it was a fun time. Do you know what I mean? But when you're walking cross country solo and doing every step, like, what other choice do I have when you're not relying on other people? What other choice do you have but to rely on yourself? So does it matter that I spent the next 2 days in pain recovering? Does it matter that, my body was raw after it? That I had cramps for the next day or two, that I had cramps the whole time running up this hill, cramps in my calves. My calves felt so rock solid. Do you know what I mean? Like I felt so exhausted. I could barely walk after it. Do you sort of get it? Like, is that a negative thing? To the majority of people, yes, that is a negative thing. That would be their worst nightmare. Do you know what I mean? But to me, it was a small price to pay to show that mountain that it's a bitch and it ain't got shit on me. Do you sort of get it? Like, and it wasn't that I hit this mountain with all the energy. I hit this mountain when I was depleted. I had been walking for over 12 hours that day through the heat, through the sun. Do you sort of get it? I was 38 kilometers into a 40-kilometer walk. At the top of the mountain was the town with the rest area that I was camping at. Do you sort of get it? Like it was that last little sort of kick to the nuts. that I was so close, yet that's where the immense hurdle was. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the power of our narratives, that when we create them and we don't allow them to be dictated, because I could have looked at it like I've walked 38 kilometers. Do you know what I mean? I started walking at 5:30 in the afternoon, in the morning, and I hit this mountain at about 5:30 in the afternoon. Do you sort of get it? Like, I'd only taken two 15-minute breaks that day. I walked through two storms. I dealt with traffic and walking on roads that didn't have any side to walk on, where I had to walk on the road and deal with traffic. Like, I dealt with, you know, flat tires that day. Like, do you sort of get it? Like, that's the thing, our perspective. We focus on what we had to go through, how bad it's been, how bad this next challenge is going to be, and we allow it to break us. It will break us. So when we're creating these narratives, it's important to understand, am I in control of the situation or not? Like, do I want to control myself in the situation, or do I want who I am and how I show up to be dictated by the environments that I go through or that I'm in? Because if I want to be dictated to the environment or by the environment, that last bit should have been the worst aspect of it. Yet to me, it was the most enjoyable aspect, because there was, you know what I mean? Because it was the most enjoyable aspect to me, because I really enjoyed how it was meant to break me, yet it couldn't break me, yet it didn't have the power to break me. Do you know what I mean? So it's very important when we're creating these narratives, we just understand our narrative starts as a language pattern or a structure of words, i.e., I'll break down one of them for you. That, like, one of my narratives is, if a challenge is meant to break me, I will try and break myself on it. Do you sort of get it? It's just a structure of words. But the meaning to that is, should I face challenge, i.e., a vertical mountain that's 2 kilometers up, or 1 kilometer up, or 1.5 kilometers up. I didn't really measure the distance. Like, instead of me trying to take it easy, I'm going to try and break myself through maximum exertion, i.e., I don't walk up that bitch, I run up that bitch. Why? Because if life's going to give me challenges, I'm going to run headfirst through them. Like, life doesn't dictate what is exhausting to me. I dictate what is exhausting to me. Like, do you sort of get it? Because in past memory, I have tried to walk up mountains slowly and easily, and I have run up mountains. And there's a common denominator. When I run up mountains, it's far more exhausting and far more exerting, but I get there quicker. Do you know what I mean? When I create more pain, okay, my body releases adrenaline and endorphins to try and soothe the pain. The more pain I create within my body, the more adrenaline and endorphins that my body creates or releases. Like, these are past experiences. I know this. Like, I've experienced it many times before. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. So we're using past memory. And luckily for me, before hitting this mountain, I had been through 3 mountain ranges. Do you know what I mean? I had walked over 50 Ks in a day through mountainous terrain. Like I'd already experienced it. I already knew that this mountain that I was going up wasn't anything new, wasn't anything different. It was the same as before. That's the thing. When we're conditioning in these narratives, we're just using meaning, which is why, and we're using memory, past experience, things we've gone through. That's it. Do you sort of get it? Language patterns plus the meaning. So language patterns plus why it means what it means, plus past experience or memory of experiencing it as being true equals like the new narrative. Do you sort of get it? So like in past, I've done 3 or 4 hour gym sessions where I've pushed my body to the breaking point. Do you know what I mean? I've run on treadmills up hills. I've run up mountains. Granted, all those times I wasn't pulling 50 kilos behind me in a car. Do you sort of get it? Like it was a new experience for me, but it wasn't new because this happened to me on like the 20th day and I'd been walking. I had about 15 days of walking through mountains. Do you know what I mean? Like it didn't bother me because life's mountains. Do you sort of get it? We can pretend that life's meant to be easy and we can avoid the pain and wish and want the mountains away. But the truth is, once we accept life is uphill, life is downhill, life is back uphill, life is back downhill, it's mountains. And that's just what it is. We set that expectation. And then we choose who do we want to be? How do we want to show up to it? So when faced with mountains and a mountain climb, I run because I find it easier to run uphill than I do walking uphill. Because walking uphill, I'm fighting gravity. Running uphill, I'm breaking gravity. Do you sort of get it? Like, that's the thing. That's the importance is we understand that we're utilizing past experience, past memories. We're utilizing the meaning, the why behind this. Why run up mountains? Because I enjoy running uphill rather than walking uphill. Do you sort of get it? Like, do you understand how to create the narrative? Like, do you understand how to create the meaning and assign the meaning? Does it mean the meaning's true? Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. That's the thing. It does not matter because you validate it as being true. I validate it. I think it's easier to run uphill than walk uphill. And I think people who walk uphill are bitches. Does that mean I run up every hill? No. But it just means that should you tell me that it's easier to walk uphill than run, I'm going to call you a bitch because that's what it means to me. It doesn't mean it has to mean it to you. But if you try and tell me that that's not what it means, I will just call you a bitch and then start running up the hill. Does it mean it's going to be pretty? Does it mean it's going to be easy? Does it mean it's not going to be painful? No, that's the thing. When experiencing pain, I amplify the pain. Does this mean things always go right for me? No. There are many times where amplifying the pain led to more damage. But what do we do when that happens? We accept it. We don't sit there and moan and wish and want for us to have made different decisions. We make different decisions in the future. If it's that, i.e., if you have extreme tendon damage and damage to tendons don't create more trauma within them. Why? Because I've done that. What does it do? It leads to the tendons like swelling, seizing. It leads to the limb seizing up. It leads to immense pain because I tore the ligaments and the tendons in my foot. And then I read online that one way to get rid of the pain was deep tissue massage. So I got a golf ball and I started stomping on it and rubbing it vigorously and aggressively. And it caused those tendons to become severely damaged and those ligaments to become severely damaged. And then my foot seized and I was in such pain that I could barely breathe, that I could not stop involuntarily shaking. Do you sort of get it? Like, am I going to be angry at myself because I did that? No, it's a lesson. Don't do that in the future. If you have tendon damage, ligament damage, don't create more damage. Do you sort of get it? These are narratives. These are understandings, lessons. Like we understand why we don't do it. Why? Because in past memory and my past experience, when I have done it, the result was a lot more extensive to the point where I could not use that foot for 3 weeks. I had to be in a moon boot. Do you sort of get it? I could barely walk. I was limping everywhere. Like I could not bend my foot. My foot swole up. It was funny. Do you know what I mean? Like I still have pain in that foot because the ligaments were torn pretty bad. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be life pain. That sometimes, for no reason, I'm going to have pain in those ligaments. Do you sort of get it? Does it matter? No. When that pain shows up, I understand why that pain's there. Does it mean I'm going to stop what I'm doing because of that pain? Fuck no. Fuck no. That pain's a bitch in comparison to me. Do you sort of get it? These are all just narratives. Narratives I've created to work through and overcome these things. So, how do we condition it in? We've always known conditioning is just repetition. The more I experience that pain and the more I tell myself that pain is a bitch, and if I give in to that pain, I'm a bigger bitch than that pain. Do you know what I mean? The more I just condition it in to where every time I feel that pain, that's my choice. I can either push through the pain or I'm a bitch to the pain. That's it. That's the narrative. Do you sort of get it? Just repeating it again and again and again and again. Every time I experience that pain. Like I understand why I'm experiencing the pain. When I don't understand why I'm experiencing the pain or what the pain means, like it creates fear, fear of the unknown, fear of potential more damage. Do you sort of get it? All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one and I hope you get it because the narratives are the way in which we shape how we interact with the external environment and how we compose ourselves with the external environment. Alrighty, you guys have an amazing day and I'll talk to you later. Thanks so much. Bye.